All right, guys, I have Paige here, and she is going to talk all about how to start your website design business quickly. This is for the beginner. I'm really excited. So, first, can you just quickly tell us your origin story?
Yes. Okay. My name is Paige. Lovely to meet you. So I teach people how to be website designers, though I didn't intend to do that. That was actually kind of an accidental job, which I created for myself. So back when I was in university, I was kind of like doing a blog on the side. And then I was like, ooh, this is fun. I like redesigned my blog 50 million times. And then the like bright idea clicked into my head, like, instead of just redesigning my own website a million times, I should just like build websites for other people and then get paid for that. And so I started a bit of like a side hustle, designing websites, and then met a German guy in university in a bar, and then moved over to Europe after school, and then was like, cool, I don't speak the language, wonder how I can make money and support myself. And so that's when that little side hustle turned into like a legitimate job. Um, and I fully taught myself how to be a website designer. There was no course at the time. There was maybe like one or two people sharing a blog article or two on like their process, but it was really difficult to figure out how exactly you set up a business exactly. But anyways, after many days crying on my living room couch and being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I figured it out, pieced together how to become a website designer exactly, and how to actually like find clients and run the business and deal with contracts and onboarding and offboarding and all those things. And I blogged as my marketing strategy, coming back to the fact that like I wasn't really in a place where I spoke the language. I couldn't like go chat up people at some local event or like I don't know, local chamber of commerce or whatever. And so all my marketing was done online. And from that, I basically booked out my web design services. It was like I just because your content on the internet can reach so many people. And
Mhm.
so I started getting an absolute, like literally, like an inquiry a day was coming into my inbox. And I was like, ooh, okay, well, that's a bit of a problem. Nice problem to have. And
Mhm.
so that's when I switched over to doing a course. And my thought at the time was like, I'll just teach people who would have been my clients to build their own website. And then what I accidentally realized is that I just started attracting people who basically wanted to be website designers because apparently only people who are going to invest 12 hours into learning how to build a website are people who want to do it for a job.
Yeah.
So that's how I got around to what I do now. I did create a second course, which is all about the business side of running a business, not just the like how to design websites. So yeah.
Yeah. And my unofficial introduction to Paige is so I started my business in 2018, and I
Mhm.
was the one who was like, I don't know how to do anything related to websites because I was doing social media at the time. And I swear, you guys, every time I searched a blog post on anything, it was Pages blog, especially back then. Like there wasn't a
Mhm.
lot of content around Squarespace.
Yep.
And so you just had everything. And I was like,
Yep.
what in the heavens? And that really gave me a glimpse into SEO, which I talk about a
Mhm.
ton on this channel, and how much I love it and how beneficial it is because
Yep.
like you are a great example. Like you built up your business
Mhm.
literally just because of SEO.
Yeah,
And you're
literally
not
just
even
because
on
of a
social
blog.
media at this point, which
Nope.
is
Yep.
love. I mean, I would like
Yep.
to follow you a little bit more on social media, but it's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'll just follow
I
your
would like to
YouTube
be on
channel.
social media too without the whole like, you know,
I get
I
it.
don't know, like comparison and the amount of time that it takes and all those things. Like literally my husband and I were discussing this the other day. He posted his like a review like a kind of like end of summer like post on like his WhatsApp status or something. And he's like, that took me like 30 minutes. And then I
Yep.
noticed the next day I was like constantly checking to see like how many people had looked at it and like who had looked at it and who had responded and whatever. And he's like, it was so, I don't know, it's just and so I have just been very observant like when I'm on social media, I'm like, I don't think this is good for me. And so yeah, even though it is really nice to be able to like follow along with, I don't know, like life updates, people you want, but that algorithm just doesn't, I don't know, not
Yeah.
good.
And to each their own. Like if you're following and social
Yeah,
media is working for you, great. But like
knock
I
yourself out.
agree. I'm also in the camp of like I built up my blogging, and maybe I'd have my mom read my blog post,
Mhm,
but like nobody was reading it. And I'm like, is this worth my time? But
mhm.
ultimately, that lives on forever and social media
Yep,
doesn't. And
yep,
so, like, that's been so beneficial as I have a 1 and a 2-year-old, and
mhm,
I just don't have the capacity that I used to have to like
mhm,
engage. I definitely don't have the capacity to engage.
yep,
I maybe can post here and there, but
mhm.
uh, being able to get clients just through SEO, that's not what we were planning on talking about, you guys, but
Side
it's a
note.
thing. Okay, but let's go back to beginning of business because I do want to talk more
Mhm.
about that. So obviously, it's not all perfect. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you experienced in the beginning.
Yeah, literally not knowing what the heck I should do with myself. Like I sat down on my first like official day of like, okay, I work for myself now. And I was like, what should I like I didn't have a client, so I was like, I don't know, what do I do? And it was like, okay, well, should I like tweak my website? Should I fix like change my pricing? Should I like what marketing should I do? I don't know anything about marketing. I told myself that I hated marketing because I just had no idea what I was actually supposed to be doing with myself. And so what I did was I Googled literally Googled like every way that anyone had ever on the internet gotten a freelance web design client, like listened to a ton of like any podcast I could find on something about like freelancing or something. And I remember very specifically, I was sitting at my desk and I took my little notepad and I made a list of every single way that I had found in that day through my Google research that someone had found a web design client somehow. And so I went through the list at the top and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this today. And so I did that thing. And then I went the next day and did the next thing and the next day and did the next thing. And trying to do 25 different marketing strategies is not a great recipe for success. I quickly learned, and there was no shortage of effort, but there was definitely a shortage of results from that. And so I just felt more lost and alone and flustered and confused by the day as to like what I should actually spend my time on when I want to like successfully start this business. And I just wanted someone to like give me a checklist or like tell me what marketing strategy to do. And so yeah, challenges in the beginning, that and the mindset piece. Like trying, I have to say, I'm actually really proud of myself for like how I mentally handled the beginning of my business because I think it truly was the hardest part. Um, it was like I read all of the mindset book because like the things running through my head were like, your website designs aren't as good as her website designs. And like, why would anyone work with you? And like, there's so many other people. And like, this is never going to work. And you're going to have to get on a plane and go back home to Canada and like call your European fling over because like you're not going to be able to figure out how to make money in this country. And so that was obviously highly unenjoyable to have that like parade of thoughts just 24/7 going through your head. And so I read like all of the mindset books and I literally started like speaking back to the negative thoughts in my head. I was just like, I'm not accepting you. I don't agree with you. And I started like replacing that with like more positive thoughts, or it was like, you're not going to get another client. And then I would get another client and I'd be like, oh, okay, well, like it can happen. And so I started being like, okay, well, that wasn't true the last time. So like, is it going to be true again this time? And so, yeah, I think the major challenges were the like lack of knowing what I should actually spend my time on.
Mhm.
And the mindset piece was the two major issues which I faced.
Yeah, that's really awesome that you were able to be like, I'm gonna read some books. I'm gonna like really try to work
Mhm.
against this because I think I don't know the exact stat, but there's a lot of businesses that fail in the first year and
Yep.
even more in the first 3 years.
Yep.
And so that has definitely been a big struggle for me. And I think it took me about 5 years before I started to be like, no, Becca, you are good. Like you
Yep.
are talented. Or, maybe my designs aren't as beautiful as the XYZ
Mhm.
person, but I have this trait that I can hold on to.
Yep.
And it took a really, really long time. And so
Yep.
for any new business owner, if you can fast track that portion, and for me,
Yeah.
one thing I found super beneficial is surrounding yourself. Like, yeah, you could join a mastermind, but I would just like
Mhm.
reach out to two people in the same field
Yep.
or two people who are at the same point in business,
Yep.
just because not all clients are good. And
Yep.
it's good to bounce like that because that's going to probably be the biggest downfall is a hard client.
Absolutely. I see that, like, it's so difficult when one of your first clients is I was very blessed with my very, very, very first one. She was so lovely and so pleasant to work with and wonderful and everything. But I don't know if it was, like, number 2 or 3 or 4 or something, but there was one of them where it was just, like, that thing went off the rails a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I see that often in our student community. It's like, "This is happening," and, like, people when they're so supportive of that person, especially when there's like, if you have a bad experience to start, it is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And I really, like, hope and pray for people that that doesn't happen. But when it does, yeah, having someone to talk to about it and lay the situation out and have them be like empathetic and understanding really goes a long way and helps.
Yeah. And I wish that was just more normalized that if you have, and I probably have had 80 clients over the years, and I probably had 3 or 4
Mhm.
bad clients. I'm just gonna say for what it is.
Yep.
And like a couple different things that have really helped me is having a solid contract in place so you can be like, no, I did do exactly what
Yep.
I said. And
Mhm.
then I am someone that believes in over delivering. And so
Yep.
if you over deliver, you can when it gets in those places, at least for me, because I was like,
Yep.
I feel guilty. It would cause me anxiety for days on end.
Mhm.
But I could finally work up the courage to send the email and be like, not only did I do everything in the contract, but I
I
also
also
over
did
delivered
this.
here.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
pay me and let's move on. And I
Yep.
never after that, I never had to take someone to claims court or anything because I did.
Mhm.
That would be my
Yep.
like
Yep. I 100% agree with those tips. Those are great tips.
yeah. And when you said in the beginning, marketing, like figuring out, I mean, I know that you ended up obviously choosing blogging.
Mhm.
Do you
Mhm.
still feel, because you started your business, what, like 8 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. Well,
So do
is
you
that
still
still a good
feel like,
strategy? Mm.
is that, yeah, is that what you would say to
Mm.
new people? Or would you say
Mhm.
Instagram is a good avenue at this point?
Great question. Incredible question. I will say a couple things. So, first thing is what is right for me could very well not be the same right answer for you. And I think that is so important. And so if you, we just hated on Instagram a second ago, but like if you go on Instagram and you love it and you engage with it and you're keeping up with the trends and this is like, it really brings you joy to be on the app, fantastic. Then that would be a wonderful place for you to market your business. And it genuinely makes a ton of sense. Like as a designer, it is a visual thing that you're producing. It is a visual platform that aligns perfectly. So what I will say is this, is that the marketing strategy that you will be successful with is the one that you actually enjoy doing the most. And so for me, when I was going through my giant list, one of them was blogging. And as I did it, I like enjoyed blogging and it wasn't difficult for me and it felt fun and whatever. And I could tick it off so easily. Whereas there was other strategies, which it would be like on the list. I'm like, oh, got to do that today. And first I did my laundry and then I cooked a meal and then I like did everything else I could find to do first. And so I think that if you are currently attempting a marketing strategy and you find yourself procrastinating before you actually get around to doing it, then that is a good sign that that one might not be the right one for you. I will also say in terms of picking it. So blogging and Instagram are not the only two strategies by any means. There are actually many, many more. And so in shortly coming up, we're going to do, if you're watching this like right when the video comes out, we're going to be hosting a boot camp around like the 20th of October. It's a couple days long. And on one of those days, we are just talking about marketing strategies and which option is right for you. And we'll walk through like what are all the different options and how do you pick one that genuinely you're going to enjoy doing, which you can be consistent with long term and all those things. So we will put the link for that bootcamp below. It's called the Profitable and Productive Web Designer Bootcamp. And so at that event, one day is just covering marketing strategies. So definitely come to that if you're confused as to what to do.
Yeah, definitely. All 3 days are good. I've gone to it multiple times just because it's good to get the refresher. So, and I know some of the people that have used my link have also gone to it multiple times. So definitely hop in that. So next question. A lot of people will, they see these amazing web design businesses out there and they wonder like, can I actually do that? So can you just take me through like, if you were to decide I want to start a website design business tomorrow, like what steps would you take?
Yep. Love it. Okay. Well, the first thing I would do is I would come to boot camp because that literally on day one of boot camp, we talk about like foundational things you need to know to become a website designer. So that would be a good place to start. But after that, I would. So I think let me say what I wouldn't do actually first is one of the things which I find a lot of ladies do is they're like, I need this and I need this and I need this. I need an email list and I need a blog and I need a contract and I need a CRM system and I need a website. I need 15 portfolio pieces and I need a million testimonials. And they're like, oh my God, it's going to take me so long to actually like start the business. And I'm like, okay, let's not like, let's take this one step at a time here. And also like eliminate some things that like, yes, it's good to have a blog or have an Instagram or have an email list or have an opt-in gift or whatever. Those are all good things. But like to very, very, very start your business, in order for you to like be in business, you need to have a client who pays you money. And so like, that's what what I would do is this. I would, very first thing, choose a platform you want to work on. So there are many different website building platforms. And especially if you're beginning, I wouldn't recommend learning all of them because that would take you forever. So pick one that aligns most with like what platform you enjoy using and which would also align with who your potential future ideal client is. So Becca and I, we both work with like small business owners, often like creative entrepreneur type folks. And so Squarespace is the one that we use. A lot of people also use something like Showit or WordPress or Shopify or Webflow or whatever. So there are different options, but I would kind of like research and see which one feels right to you. I've just through running my blog, I just like tried a bunch of different ones. And so that's one thing, pick a website building platform, then learn said website building platform. So that could be formal or informal. There's courses on that. There's YouTube videos on it. There's you just playing around with your website. Obviously the faster you learn to really make incredible websites, the faster you're going to make good money as a website designer. There is a difference between like, believe me, the first couple websites I built and the ones which I'm building now are like two very different things. So I've just learned a lot over the years. So yeah, pick a website building platform, get good at website building platform. Next thing I would do is just start talking to your family and friends. Like, is anyone, and this is the thing, so often we think, or at least I thought like, oh, well, I don't know a single business owner. I don't know a single like person who needs a website. And that turned out to not be true. And it was like, once I actually started saying later on in my business, like, oh yeah, I'm a website designer, I can build websites. So many people from my like personal life, like people from high school and people from university and like an uncle and stuff were all like, oh, I need a website. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if I had been more vocal about what it was that I was doing, I would have had more people start coming to me, basically. So
Yep.
I would start just telling the people you meet on a day-to-day basis. If you're going to go drop your kid off at school, or you're going to go to your yoga class, or you're going to go whatever you're doing that week, meet your family at a barbecue or a birthday party, just start mentioning that this is what you're doing now. And you would be amazed at how many people are like, oh, I want to start this thing, or oh, I have a business for this, or oh, my website right now is terrible. And so that is how you can get those first couple of projects. You can choose if you want to do them completely unpaid and as basically like confidence building and testimonial building and portfolio building, or if you want to do them paid and therefore get all those benefits, but also money as well. I don't think that there's anything. Some people say, oh, you need to charge money from the beginning, or some people say, oh no, but you don't know what you're doing at the beginning, so you can't charge money. And so honestly, I think like I did my very first one unpaid, and then from number 2 onwards, I started like charging for them. And of course, over time, your prices raise because you significantly you learn many things in a very quick succession, basically when you're building websites. So yeah, I would start building your portfolio through paid or unpaid projects. And then I would really figure out like, okay, what's my marketing strategy beyond, at some point you will tap out your family and friends. So we need to start figuring out like, what do we want to do past that? And in terms of the like, do you create an opt-in gift and do you start an email list and do all the, like, those are all the things, or set up your CRM system to be absolutely perfect with this amazing onboarding process and your welcome package and yada, yada. That's all the stuff, which I find is like, it's good to have. You don't need it from day one. And it tends, we're like working by doing those things often. Whereas what you really need to have a real business is like provide service, have some sort of service that you can provide, and then make money from that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be
Yeah.
my first few steps.
I would definitely agree with, like, even if you're like, I've not been on my Facebook page in years,
Mhm.
post on your Facebook page, your personal one,
Mhm.
and like get over the imposter syndrome that you might be feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be starting a business. I'm not qualified, whatever. I would definitely say that's a really good starting point because
Mhm.
you don't know who's lurking and who will see that. And also usually like those people, if they're your part of your community, they're usually like kinder. So going back to
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
not starting with a crappy client, you have a better chance of getting a good client through that. And then you're going to start building that referral network with
Mhm.
other kind people. Same thing, like my first person, they happened to, it was a personal connection. And then she was able to refer me to other photographers
Mhm.
was what she did. So that
Mhm.
is definitely a good thing. And then the other thing that I'm just curious about your
Mhm.
opinion. Um, it's 2024, going into
Mhm.
2025. Like, what I know, like platform doesn't matter, and we both
Mhm.
agree. Like, Squarespace is great for like new business owners because
Mhm.
so if you're designing for other new business owners or people who don't have
Mhm.
a lot of time and need to update, Squarespace is super easy. Show it a little bit
Mhm.
harder than Squarespace, but it has a great customer support and
Mhm.
also easy. But
Yeah.
I have felt like if I were to start right now,
Mhm.
I would maybe jump into Shopify. It's not easy.
Oh.
Shopify and WordPress are not easy platforms, but here's the
Yep.
thing is I feel like there's a lack in that market. Have you seen that at all?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. Okay, well, I don't know the statistics and the number on it, so I couldn't tell you 100%. I can say this is that so I one of my courses is all about like how to learn how to build websites on Squarespace specifically.
Mhm.
And my web designer course, like to become a web designer, is like you can use whatever platform your little heart desires. Like if you want to learn Squarespace, cool, here's a course on it. If you want to go, you learn Shopify or Show It or whatever else you can go, there's other courses for that. Um, and so some of my students will do Squarespace and another platform. They'll do Squarespace and Shopify, or they'll do Squarespace and Show It or something. Or some of them might even have them like, yeah, just do one of the other platforms. They don't even use Squarespace at all. I can say this is that when I do like interviews with our students and stuff, people are very successful at booking themselves out at just with Squarespace. People are also very successful at booking themselves out with Squarespace and Shopify, for example. I can think of one off the top of my head. Her name's Aisha. She makes really incredible websites. And yeah, she uses multiple platforms. I think let me say it like this is you as a web designer, probably realistically, if you say do a website in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, you can only fit in like 20, 25 projects maybe in a year if you're
Right.
doing like full website builds. And so you have to think about like you're on every one of these platforms, there is hundreds of thousands or millions of people who need their website built or redesigned every year. And so you're again only looking for maybe 25 projects. And so I think that you can book yourselves out on any platform
That's true.
is
Yeah.
my personal opinion, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, in terms of like demand to supply of designers on different platforms. I wish I had that number, but I actually don't. But yeah.
Yeah, that's just something I've been asked, I feel like lately, "Hey, do
Mm,
you know Shopify?" And I'm like,
good question.
"No, but apparently I should learn it,"
Yeah.
because I just feel like, and I'm referring it out. And actually someone who
Yep.
I know who went through your course, she
Mm,
is like, "I think I'm gonna do Shopify because she knows it and now
yep.
like," and I'm like, "You
Totally.
can, if you can
Yep.
do custom websites on Shopify, you are like
Yep.
gold because it's
There
just
are
harder."
also, I mean, there are definitely for every platform, there's pros and cons. And as you mentioned, Shopify, not easy. I do love it. It's a Canadian company, so that's great. But yeah, it's like one of our only tech companies, which is kind of sad. That BlackBerry, um,
Really?
which still
BlackBerry? That's still
exists.
a thing?
I know. Yeah, so I think they're in software or something now. They don't even do cell phones anymore. But anyways, different platforms I would say command different like price points. Shopify websites on average are more expensive. They're also
Yeah.
harder to build and take more time. And the platform's more complicated. It's just harder to use. So like with anything, you're gonna have that like sort of range in price based off the range of difficulty of building the website on that platform. So yeah, if you want to learn Shopify, definitely encourage you to go do so. It's also a great platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to give you guys, I mean, I know Paige said, like, you can start with charging and not charging. I
Mhm.
personally think I charged $450 for my first
Mhm.
website, which was a steal of a deal. So, like,
Yep.
you can easily charge 415. People will be like, "Heck yes, I'll pay that." So just
Yeah.
keep
I
that in the back
mean,
of your mind. I
yeah.
know Paige did a huge survey of, I don't know if it was all designers or Squarespace designers,
Mm.
and you can correct me, but I think it
Mhm.
was like the average price for a 5-page website for a new Squarespace
Mhm.
designer was around 2,500, I think.
Yep. Yeah, we'd have to I have a blog post. We can maybe link down below.
I'll link it, yeah.
We did a survey of 770 website designers, not just on Squarespace. So we both
Okay.
asked my own audience and then we asked other people in the web designer space, but also on different platforms if they could like share this survey with like their people basically. So it was more Squarespace designers completing it than I can't. If you go to the link again, the link will have all the actual like graphs and details and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were asking questions like how much are you charging? What platforms are you using? How long did it take you to get clients? That one was so interesting. So people are always like, oh no, it's too saturated, which just means they're like comparing themselves to 50 designers on Instagram, probably. It's
Right.
like they go to look into it and then they're like, oh no, there's so many other good ones. But the question about like how long did it take you to get you your first client? I think it was like 60, 70%. Again, look at the link to see the actual details, but it was like 60, 70% got it before they officially launched their business. And I'm like, 60% of people are getting a client before they officially launch their business. I think we are safe in saying that it's still pretty needed.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, especially when you are charging that lower price point, which you can't do forever, but
Mhm.
when you are charging that lower, there are so many people who want a website that just don't have
Yep.
the budget, and
Mhm.
when they hear that you're willing to do it for 450, they're like, "Heck yes," because
Yeah,
usually it's
totally.
25. So, yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
getting clients is not, if you can get over your mental hump, it's not the hardest part of running a business.
exactly. I think that's so true. It's a really good
Yeah.
point.
Okay, you kind of mentioned this. There's just so many things that you need, but you don't really need. But
Mhm.
let's just quickly go into that. Like, quickly list out, like, what are the
Mhm.
things? Let's say you're a month in, you've had a couple clients.
Yep.
What are some things that maybe you should start getting in place for your business?
Yep. First thing that I would spend some real money on is a web designer client agreement, like a legal agreement, which is the thing that you use between you and your client. So that's the thing that is like spells out this is what I'm doing, this is what's included in your package, here's all this legal mumbo jumbo. That is something which, if there's ever any sort of like disagreement on like what was agreed upon or whatever, you have like a document black and white that they've signed and you've signed. And so I would say that that is very worthwhile to use. I can also say that so a CRM system is exceptionally convenient. I wanted it such a long time in my business without using one. Like I didn't really get what they were for. And I was just like, I'll just send an email with a contract and like I don't see a problem. A CRM system is useful. It will make you faster and more productive and more efficient, but it is not absolutely necessary to start with. So again, it's one of those like I would kind of set myself like little rewards for yourself as your business makes certain amounts of money. So your first reward that I would get for yourself, definitely like the legal situation. Um, and then after that, a CRM system is useful. If there's any sort of equipment that you need for maybe you want to create YouTube videos or maybe you want to do a podcast or I don't know, whatever you want for your marketing strategy, if there's some social media scheduling tool or something, that is also like anything to enable you to do what you want to do for your marketing is worth investing in. A CRM system is also useful, but you can get away for like a good amount of time without one. But let me explain like why it's useful is when you suddenly have like people booking you out, like I don't know, months in advance or something, then all of that client communication, you can basically automate it. So it's like they sign the contract, they pay the invoice through the CRM system. Then you set like, okay, the project's going to start on this date. And then they have client homework, which is due like maybe a week beforehand or something. And so it will like auto send the reminder emails. It'll auto send the welcome package when they sign the contract and pay the invoice and everything. So it just like speeds up a lot of the like processes and makes you do less manual work. Granted, at the beginning of your business, when you only have one client, you have time to like send those emails and it's not the end of the world. But when you're like, oh, I have a lot of clients now, then that's when it's useful to like have something like that to kind of automate those things. So yeah, and I will also say the other thing, which I did spend money on, the thing which I tried my million marketing strategies. And then I also took a course. It wasn't at all web designer specific. I took B School from Marie Forleo, which incredible course. And I would say that education is like, that was the thing which finally made me stop being like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I actually knew what I was supposed to be doing. Now there are courses which are more web designer specific. And so I do think that like the most aligned course that you can get for the thing you want to do is absolutely like worth doing. So that would be the other thing I would definitely spend money on and continue to this day. When I'm like, I want to learn a new thing, I'm like, who's the expert? Give me the course. Like it's not a question of like, do I spend money on that? It's like, I'm just looking for like, what is the best of all the things, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. When I am like too frugal for my own good, I'll admit it. But I would definitely say like in the first 6 months of my business, what I was like, what I spent money on was a contract, which I'll link one below. I use the legal page. You can use anyone,
Good.
but that's one that I use. So a contract for sure. Or if you don't want to buy one, just write one, with some basic things. I spent money on that. I joined a little mastermind, which actually was really beneficial because it was with other new entrepreneurs who needed websites.
Oh,
So then I was able, again, I wasn't charging a ton. So I was
Mhm.
able to get these other people who were in my mastermind and needed a
Mhm.
website. And I was their go-to person because
Good.
I had a good price and they knew me. So that was in the first 6 months. I did not use my CRM Dubsado until about a year, 2 years into my business.
Mhm.
And again, when it became really helpful is when I pivoted to Website in a Days because I needed things to be in my inbox when a website in a day started. Otherwise, I couldn't produce for the client. So
Yep.
at this point, I've done 40 Website in a Days. I have my whole like
Amazing.
streamlined. They get this, they get this, they get this.
Mhm.
That's when it becomes really beneficial. But I wouldn't say
Yep.
same thing.
Yep.
Right off the bat, you just need a contract. You need a way for them to pay you.
Yep.
So even if you just use Venmo Business, make sure you're doing business. Otherwise, you're not
Yep.
being legal. But
Yep.
PayPal,
Yep.
whatever, like
Mhm.
you just need a way for them to pay.
Yep, exactly. And that you just pay, you don't need to like pay for PayPal or
Yep.
something. It's like just when they pay you, a percentage comes off basically. So yeah.
Yep. And that's just make sure, you can write all that off. Like
Yep.
PayPal, it takes, what is it, like 1.8% or
Yep.
something.
Mhm.
It is what it is. The cost of running business, it's annoying, but it is what it
Yep.
is.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so how long does it
Mhm.
realistically take to be in a position to book yourself? We kind of talked about this, like
Mhm.
the stat, which I thought was so cool.
Mhm.
Um, but do you have any other thoughts on that?
It's a good question. So I've had like thousands of students who have taught how to do this now, and let me say this, there's a wide range. And it
Yeah.
really depends on like the person and their life situation. I have had students who like go at a very impressive rate. And like I've had literally one girl who I can think of, Charlotte. I did an interview with her on my channel, and she literally started her business kind of similar to you. You know how you said like you were in that mastermind group, and then there was just like other people and they knew you and you're whatever. And so
Yeah.
therefore they booked you. She was the same thing. She's in this Facebook group. She was an author, like that was her like main thing, but then she decided to do web design as a side hustle because it made great money. And so she was in this Facebook group full of other authors. And then she put a post being like, hey, she was always answering the website building questions in there. And so eventually at some point she became known in the group. She put a post in being like, hey, I'm gonna like start doing this like as a job or side hustle or whatever. Like let me know if you're interested. I'm gonna do, I think she said like 3 for free, and then she was gonna start charging for them. She had a bajillion comments. And so she chose the 3 that she wanted to do for her portfolio pieces for free and her like practice run and everything. And then from there on, she messaged the rest of the people being like, hey, those 3 spots are taken, but like if you want to book with me, here's the pricing. She literally booked for like 6 months in advance from like that. And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Granted, there's other people who it's like, I don't know, they got the course that just had a baby, or I don't know, something is happening in their life, or like they didn't get around to it for a while. And so really it's like, it depends, but I can say that like all ranges of things have happened. And there, I will also say that some marketing strategies are faster than others. And so I didn't really know this when I started. So I was like, learned the lesson the hard way, but I blogged to get clients, and that is a slow build. It's a snowball, it turns into an avalanche. Like, it is a fantastic marketing strategy, but it is not quick at the beginning. And so it took me a lot longer than it takes a lot of my students now to get clients, because one, they have a course that tells them exactly what to do. But two, then they also like, I explained like, here's fast marketing strategies, here's like the slow burn, but like still long-term valuable marketing strategies as well. So I think it not just depends on the person and what's happening in their life, but also depends on the marketing strategy that you choose. So yeah, it can go as fast or as slow as you want it to, which
Yeah.
is not
And I
a
think
the best answer, but yeah.
that's a really good tip about joining a Facebook group. I think you think a lot of times like, oh, I'll join, like I have a Facebook group, Show It in Squarespace for Creatives. Don't join that one unless you
No,
want to answer
no.
questions. Like think about local. Local is a really good way
Mhm,
right off the bat. Like if you have a local, I live in Spokane, Washington. So
mhm,
Spokane Entrepreneur Group, that's a
mhm.
great way. And again, just start answering questions. Or a really specific weird industry like
Yep,
plumbers,
yep,
right? Like
exactly.
they have the funds, they need a website, but like they don't know
Yep.
any website designers. So
Dentists, lawyers.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that's the thing. When it comes to like choosing Facebook groups, it's like it's not actually the like Squarespace website design group that you want, because there's a million other Squarespace designers in there. You want
Yeah.
the thing where there's not a million other Squarespace designers in there. So go think about your interests and your personal life and your whatever. And that's fantastic. So interestingly, I was just talking to a student the other day, speaking of like local marketing. And
Mhm.
so I'm totally blanking on which city she's from. Oh, this is gonna annoy me. Let's say she's from Vancouver. She's not actually. I'm forgetting where she's from. Um, she made a page. She didn't change her whole website, but she just made one page, which was like Squarespace designer in Vancouver,
Great.
and ranked for that on Google and started
Yep.
getting so many clients from it. And now she like travels the world. She's not even there, but she's like still like the local designer for that, and who's like known in the local area. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. That's insane thing with like if you guys don't have a Google business listing, get yourself a Google My Business
Mm.
listing because in the beginning, that is how I actually got a lot of clients.
Mm.
You can put they do require you to put like a PO box or your address, but don't
Mm.
worry, like they're just at least when I did it, they just would send me a little card to confirm that I was
Yep.
legit. And then you
Mm.
can put a territory. And I would say in the beginning, put your territory, your city, because then
Mm.
when someone searches like web designer near me,
Yep.
you're going to pop up and
Mm.
it does blogging and getting your website to rank on SEO, like based on SEO, that's going to
Yep.
take you 6
Yep.
months, maybe a
Mhm.
year. But
Yep.
the business, the map, that's right on top. So it's
Yep.
your
That's
very
quick.
quick way to like show
Yep.
up page one, first spot of Google. And
Totally.
all it took was me to get honestly like 3 reviews. Once I
Yeah.
got 3 reviews on my Google business listing, I was getting so many calls to the point where I was like, I no longer want calls. So I extended my area to
Mm.
all of the US. And
Ah.
now I have noticed that now that I serve all of I think I serve all of North America, I don't really
Mm.
get calls through my Google business listing.
Interesting.
So, if you
So making
wanted to
it
be
more
effective,
specific is better. That's
I
interesting.
do think more specific is better. I don't
Mm.
have that, like, proven, but that's been
Yep.
my experience. So,
Yeah. That's really interesting.
yeah.
That's super interesting.
Um, what are
Did you get real reviews, or was it like friends and family who like made your first
No, I got
review, or
real
like,
reviews.
oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I
no.
assume I've never actually done the Google My Business like thing or Google Places. But I just assume when people start those, they just like get their friends and family to give them the first few to like get it started. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
A lot of my reviews starting out so I did social media. So, they
Mm.
weren't
Yep.
even website related, but
Yep.
since I had once I pivoted to website, since I like would put website designer in the you just fill out your
Mm.
listing. So it literally
Yep.
tells you what to do. I would still be getting calls, even though my reviews were related to social media. It
Mm.
didn't seem to hinder that
Yeah. I can
because they're just
imagine. That
looking for
makes
my
sense.
if I'm a qualified lead, if I'm
Yep.
ethical doing my work. So
Yep. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
they can look at
That's
my portfolio to see I actually design websites. But
yeah.
yeah,
Mm. Cool.
um, what are some mistakes that you see right off the bat that we can help some people avoid?
Yeah, okay. Lots. First one is the mindset one. I think that is the
Yeah,
thing that will derail you before you literally begin. It's like we don't even need to get into the practical yet, because if you can't motivate, I don't want to say motivate, like if you can't get over your own mental blocks of like, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm blah, 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 then like we don't have anything to work with here. So like whatever you can do to have belief in yourself. I could say that for me, doing that one free project was massively helpful. It was like I'd redesigned my own blog a million times, but I was like, oh, well, could I really do this for someone else? And like, would they like what I produce or would they not be happy with it or whatever. And so it was just like through my university, I just like met this couple who ran a nonprofit and they were mentioning that their website was like terrible and they didn't know how to fix it or update it or whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I kind of know how to build websites. Like I can try. And so I just did that first one for free and giving it to them and having them be so pleased with it and looking at it and being like, this is a pretty good looking website. That gave me so much confidence. So whether it's mindset books or meditations or doing some free work or whatever you need, watching every single YouTube video that exists on a website building platform, like whatever you need to do to get yourself to be like, okay, I think I could maybe do this or something. Like that's just the point at which we can actually like start building a business, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So the other tip, which I will say, don't share the idea with people who tend to be the people who rain on parades. So if you or people who are very let me say so people who have always worked a 9 to 5 job or have always had a safe, like my parents had government jobs since they're like get a safe government job, like freelancing, I don't know about that. And the advice came from a very good place of their heart and it came from like what they had experienced was that was a good way of living and so therefore that is what they would recommend to other people. So do be conscious that I've noticed this a few times is like someone shares with friend or family member. I also had one friend who was not the most supportive. I was like, that's a terrible idea. You can always get a real job. And I was like, thanks. And so I think that be conscious of if there's someone in your friends or family surrounding who you think would just really shoot this down or be very negative towards it, like maybe just selectively don't tell that person or just share it with people who you think, or literally like you go into, and I think I said this to my boyfriend at the time, now husband, was like, I need you, like I'm nervous enough. I don't need your nerves added onto this. So like, can you please just try to like, be supportive of this? He's like, this is my idea. And he was like, yep. And he really was so
And
helpful
now
in
he's
that.
thankful that he was supportive.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, that was good. I'm glad
That was
I
a good
encouraged
choice on his part.
him.
Yeah. So yeah, I will say that. So coming back to like mindset and also like if you know or have an inkling that people around you would not be like massively helpful to your mindset potential problems that you're already having, like don't add to it by like sharing that with them. But that's it. Like anytime I met a girl at like cocktails the other night, and she wants to start her own like calligraphy stationery wedding invitation business. And I was like, yes. And I was just like, so like, okay. And then I don't know, try to like help her like get started and everything. So if you, on the other hand, if you do know someone who has run a business, done something entrepreneurial, whatever, that is a fantastic person to talk to because they are likely to be extremely supportive and that will really help. So, okay, that's one thing. Second thing is still a mindset thing, actually. It's a lot of mindset blocks that stop people at the beginning. Is when it comes to the pricing situation. So your price, if you're like, oh, I really want to get into higher prices or something, the probably 90% of the time, not 100% of the time, but 90% of the time, the thing stopping people from charging the price they want to charge is just fully themselves and has nothing to do with like their skill set. And so at the very beginning of my business, I was charging like $2,500 for a website. And I was doing it through my like own business and then also was like working for an agency as well to kind of like fill in as I needed projects at the beginning. And I was talking to one of the guys who ran the agency and he had obviously like seen a lot of my work and seen my like interaction with like customers and everything. And he was like, you could literally double your price and like not change anything about what you're offering because like that is the value. Like you could easily charge double and the value you're giving is absolutely there. And I was like, I could never. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, maybe I could. And so it was like, I think that's the thing is when you suddenly work for yourself, it's not like a boss telling you, and now you make more money, or now you make $1 more per hour or something. It's like, and then you decide that you are suddenly like gonna double your price or whatever, added $500 to it or something. And so I think that there is definitely an aspect of your price needs to align with the like quality of the product that you're producing. So if you're unsure, like if you're feeling like, oh no, I couldn't charge that because my work isn't as good, then cool. Then maybe we need to actually focus on the like producing better work and really learning the skills of website design and improving the product that you're producing. But more often than not, I would say it's more around the like, how can we fix the money mindset situation that's happening here? And that is more the thing that needs to be worked on. Often, not always. So yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of
That's a
mindset.
good, yeah, that I would definitely agree. And just because you, like for me personally, I have some money mindset issues. Like I was a missionary in Honduras before I started my business. And so like I lived off of, you know,
Nothing.
$200 a month.
Yeah.
So I just had such a different, but that doesn't mean that the house contractor that is down the street also has money mindset issues. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I think, charging 497 or whatever it is for your first
Mhm.
project is fine, but then,
Mhm.
or even two projects, but then double it, get to like
Mhm.
add 500 and
Yep.
every couple projects,
Mhm.
seriously, add
Yep.
500 because if you don't have that in the back of your mind, you're just going to stay stagnant. And that's what
Yep.
when I started a website in a day in
Mhm.
2020. My first
Mhm.
website a day was 450 and I had people flocking. And so I was
Yep.
like, I have to bump it up. And I just kept bumping it up a couple hundred, a couple
Mhm.
hundred. I'm now at
Mhm.
1850 for a website a day. I feel really,
Amazing.
that feels really comfortable to me. I don't want to
Mhm.
charge more. Could I?
Mhm.
Maybe, but I don't want to.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because getting $1,850 in
In
a
a day
day
is
seems
good.
really good. So I'm
Yeah.
fine with that price.
Mhm.
But it just took, and I've done 40. So like, just
Mhm.
bump it up 200, 200,
Mhm.
250, whatever,
Mhm.
500. Um,
Yep.
and then you'll get to a price point pretty quickly, especially if you're getting
Yep.
clients. So
Yep. Totally.
that's, yeah, mindset is really, really hard. What about
Yep.
like, okay, so like that's that side of things. What about once you have your business up and running and you
Mhm.
maybe have even booked your first client, what's next?
Yep. So mistakes people make once it's like up and operating, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. The hot mess at the back end. One of the things that people don't realize is that how much money you make is very like it's so correlated to the amount of time that you're spending. And so people are often doing things unproductively, not realizing that that is what's stopping them from hitting their like revenue goal for the year, for example. So
Mm,
say you take on like 6 or 7 or 8 clients at a time and they all just kind of like go for however long they tend to go for. It's like, we'll just finish when we finish or something. Like that is a problem. Those projects drag on forever.
don't do
And
that.
so don't do that. So whereas what I did and would definitely recommend everyone who I've shared it with and who has done it is like, oh my God, life changer is like I'd work with like one client at a time or like when you're doing your website in a day, like if you can do 1850 in a day, that is incredible. And so it's like if you just do one client at a time and have very specific timelines. So it's like this project takes a week or this project takes 2 weeks or whatever, and it stays within that time frame. And I will say that that takes some time and skill to learn how to like, okay, how do I set boundaries? How do I get the contract in place? How do I make sure that I can deliver this in the time frame? How do I make sure that my client is going to get me what I need, the feedback and the content and everything? And so it does
Yeah.
take a bit more effort to like set that sort of system up, let's say, or process up. But once you get that going, if you can be doing a website every week or a website every day or a website every 2 weeks versus you have 30 clients, but they all seem to take forever or something, then like you have to look at the profitability is like how much time does the project actually take you and how much money are you making from it? And if I find that a lot of people who have this like hot mess of overlapping projects, it's like might seem cool, like, oh, I have all these clients, but when you actually look at how much you're making at the end, it's like there could be some room for improvement. So I would say that once people are getting going, big problem is that's the other thing when it comes to niching, which people don't think about, is like when I started my business, I worked with so many different clients in so many different industries. Like I had a school and then I had a yoga studio and then I had a children's play space in New Jersey and then I had a blogger and all these things. And each different client wanted something different with their website. Like the school wanted a parent portal, the blogger wanted like these like rich pins and these like this recipe card thing and every single client and then the yoga studio wanted like mind body and so I would have to go and figure out how to set up all these things or get them what they wanted or what software like integrated well and that took time for every project whereas if I would have nailed an industry faster that would have meant that I would have just skipped all that research time all that like learning a new system time and everything and that would have also made my projects quicker and so I think that niching is something to consider. You don't need to niche to be successful. You can be successful without a niche and everything, but it just makes you a bit more productive, faster, and it makes it easier to do your marketing too. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think I I think people have in their mind like, oh, if I do a 6-week project, I can charge more. And that is
Mhm.
not an actual direct correlation. And I started off doing
Yeah.
6-week projects. And in my experience, the 6-week projects, one, don't result in more pages on a website.
Yep.
Two, they don't result in a better product. And three, they
Mhm.
don't result in a happier client.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
because what you're doing is you're just dragging out. And if you think about like, at least the way my brain works, like if I'm focusing on
Mental
one
load.
person and I don't need to jump in between, like, okay, now I'm doing a yoga studio, now I'm doing a contractor, like
Mhm.
I'm just focusing on just the yoga studio. I can, even if I'm
Yep.
doing a 2-week project, I can take a
Mhm.
break and I can come back the next day, but I'm still in that mindset rather than hopping on. It takes a long time for your brain
Totally.
to hop. So
Totally.
I think just doing the 2-week timeline,
Mhm.
which in the boot camp, do you give any type of timelines or in your
Yeah,
course?
we do talk about it. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely in the course, and then also in boot camp,
Yeah.
we day 2 is all about, like, the productivity aspect and, like, how
Okay.
that relates to profit and, like, setting up your systems and processes, so yeah, we talk about
Yeah.
it.
So again, well, I'll link the boot camp, but that's just something that's like to keep in the back of your mind is like you don't
Mhm.
need a longer project to charge more.
No,
And it might
absolutely
not even
not.
be advantageous.
Yeah,
So
honestly, yeah, it's totally true. It's like clients, I mean, if when I would tell clients, like, I can start your project, I can finish your project, I can guarantee you an end date, and like this is what's gonna happen, and we're gonna like have this like done and dusted in this time frame. They're like, that's amazing.
yeah.
Versus like everyone else I spoke to was like, well, see, and it's like that's not that appealing. And so if anything, it's kind of like a bit of a value add. Is like you are my
Right.
undivided attention. I'm gonna get this done by this date. Like that is incredible. And yeah, it's really true. Is that like I mean, when it comes to website design, this is not something like you tend to charge package prices, not like hourly rates. And
Right.
so it's like whether you do it over 6 weeks, overlapping with 5 other projects, and you feel like this like mental load and stress of like serving 6 people at once versus you just do one at a time, like it doesn't change the product and the end result of the website and what that is. Like that's what you're charging for, not the time. And so that's key to making more.
And in my experience, the clients would get more opinionated, which makes sense
Yep.
when they
Yep.
are
They
seeing it
have
for so
time. Yeah.
yeah, they have time to really like ask their grandma and their mom and their dad. And all of a sudden it's like, is
Exactly.
their grandma their ideal client? Maybe
Nope.
not, probably not.
Nope.
You know who their ideal client is, and you're
Yep.
designing it for their ideal client. And so
Yep.
if you have a 2-week timeline, they might be maybe more stressed, but
Yep.
like they won't come with back with more like, can you change this? Can you add this? Can you
Exactly.
you're just
Exactly.
it's streamlined, beautiful process. In a
Yep.
day, you get that even more. You can't do as many
Yep.
pages in a day, but like
Yep.
you get that even more. And so
Yep.
I love it.
100%. So true.
Okay, boot camp, and then we'll end. Quickly, like just if anybody's wanting to start a website design business, or honestly, if you just are like, I want to start a business, I don't really know what that business is because that's how
Yep.
I was in the beginning. Boot camp is free. Just join it. It's going to
Yep.
be really helpful.
Mhm.
Do you have anything else you want to say? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you can sign up with my link below, but like anything else about the boot camp?
Yep. So it is 3 days, October 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 2024. If you're watching this before then, go register. You are a lucky duck. I do it only like once or twice a year. So it is free. It is fabulous. It is 3 days. We were talking about the like foundation of like everything you need to know. If you're even web designer curious, that's why I'm like, come to this event, basically. You don't
Yeah.
have to be a web designer already. You don't have to know anything about it. But if you're like, I'd like to do something on the internet, web design sounds fun, come to this event, basically. Um, and yeah, so I will give you all details on like the foundational things and give you the idea of like the different packages and pricing and like offers that you can do as a website designer. Then we're going to talk about like making sure that everything's set up for like profit and productivity. And then we're also going to talk about finding clients. We have 3 days of live trainings, and then I also have Q&As with myself and some of my incredible past students. So if you want to literally ask your questions to a person who has done it, then we are there to answer your questions. We do it inside of a group. It is an absolute fabulous group of humans always, and it's just like such a fun time. So yeah, if you want a little like dip your toe into the web designer waters, and this is a really good way to do it. And again, it's live. It only happens once or twice a year. So if you are lucky enough to watch this before then go register below.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Paige. I will be linking everything that we mentioned below. So just go check out the links, join the boot camp. I'll be in there. You can ask me questions. You can reach out to me on Instagram if you have more questions. You can't reach out to Paige on Instagram, but it's fine. You can reach out to her in the Facebook group. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And we look
Thank
forward to
you.
it.